Thank you so much, Funeka. We thought it would be really interesting to reflect now on our coach supervision session.
Yeah.
First of all with you, and then me with Karen.
Okay.
So looking back on it, what are your thoughts?
Sure, I thought it was very useful. It was useful in the sense that we got to places where I wasn't even thinking, and the temptation for me was to focus on the client, actually, that, what was she doing? So it was quite useful to actually take a pause and look at me as a coach, and what I could have done differently in that, and what led in a way to that scenario unfolding.
Okay.
So that was quite useful to look at that, to look at, and the questions that you asked really triggered a thought process in me,
Yes.
So it was, and I found it very containing. The questioning wasn't. I didn't feel any heat. Because normally my body gives me signals when I'm feeling whatever uncomfortable or not liking what you're asking me. So I felt very comfortable. Yeah.
Thank you
so there's something that you did well.
Oh, good.
Yes.
Super, thank you. So following the supervision session with Funeka, Karen and I are going to talk about the process. And because I'm still slightly in the supervision bubble, you're going to kick off and prod me.
That was really a great example of supervision, to watch the process. And I noticed particularly you started with story and you brought it very quickly to the coach. Who is she in her work? And helped her to reflect on it and make new meaning. What was your sense of how the flow emerged during the conversation?
There was the story, and there was the question. The question was in two parts. I was tempted by the second. And because it's supervision, I did do some thinking around which I would want to go with. And we had 20 minutes, so I felt slightly constrained and wanted to focus. In reality, I might have said, and how come we're then not doing the second one? I enjoyed gaining the understanding of what was going on for the coach, and noticed at the same time that I was concerned that we stuck with a supervision model, not a coaching model, which is when I use the metaphor of, so let's put this, if we put this on the table, what piece of theory emerges? And that for me was where the practice discussion switched to supervision, because it was to do with the development of self rather than doing to people. It felt fascinating. I was fascinated, bit concerned here and there around the parallel process and what I wanted to model.
I'd be interested to hear what you were thinking and share with you what I noticed in the parallel process.
So I found myself wanting to model staying in adult and being genuinely curious and thoughtful rather than anything else. And I sensed, I don't know if this was would have been part of the conversation, but I sensed the potential for some shame around, and I went into my controlling parent piece as if it was something bad, and I wanted to make sure that that was not a piece of, it wasn't pathologized. there was also a moment where I felt I shouldn't say something, and that was bringing up a word that had been used right earlier on, the hot word of responsibility. And I thought it was an important word because something shifted in that moment where the word was used.
So you're saying you went through an inner process of should you, shouldn't you,
Yes,
and decided this was an
Yes.
important word.
yes, for some reason.
Mm.
It felt that I shouldn't not say something that I thought was significant.
Mm. And on that line, I heard you adding a piece at the end as well about thinking about the usefulness of controlling parent.
Yes.
And I think that's so key to supervision.
Yeah.
It's not, I know something that you don't know and let me ask you questions to guess it.
Okay.
That as supervisors we can share and add a piece to our supervisee's thinking.
Yes, thank you. And I was quite glad that the coach took that piece away, or the thinking about herself and reflection, and being okay with slipping into her controlling parent, seeing it almost as some kind of indicator that there's something important here that I haven't
Indeed.
realised yet.
So I'm hearing in that a strength behind what potentially felt like a mistake.
Yes.
And I wonder if that brings us to think about the key issue. What's your hunch?
What's my hunch about what was really going on? I wondered at one point if it was about a personal value that had been disrespected, and it was the word forget. What do you ask me the key issue? It was around am I not important enough for you to remember? But also, so that's one, but also I'm thinking that the coach perhaps has a real value around respecting others, and there would then perhaps be expect a reciprocity.
Sure. My wondering was around a coach who does really good work and is quite hard on herself. So, an am I good enough piece in it?
So the controlling parent might have been about the inner controlling
The inner
parent,
indeed.
as well as the external one.
Indeed.
Maybe. Gosh.
And I noticed you giving her quite a lot of positive strokes for her thinking and what she did.
Yes.
What was your thinking about that in the light of where we are now in the
I wanted
conversation?
to strengthen her adult,
Yeah, yeah.
and she is a very clear thinker. And now, on reflection, I wonder how much the coach has invested in becoming that, and that was that in a way was disrespected by the client, maybe.
Sure. If you think of it in terms of the functions of supervision, the three functions, where
Yes.
would you place where you went primarily?
So the three functions being the management of the question, the support of the coach, and the development of the coach. I think we spent a fair piece of time on the management of the question. I think the question got 2 answers. Had we had longer, I would have been a bit more interested in something else, maybe, or maybe something is still unclear to me around the development piece.
Okay.
The management, I think we answered the questions, the question. I suspect that the coach felt supported. I hope the coach felt supported.
I think in her reflections at the end, that was the sense I made of it, that she felt supported.
Yes.
And what you're wondering about the development piece?
Yes.
What's that?
I think she had 2 clear takeaways, but maybe this is now me having expectations of myself that there should be something particularly deep or particularly incisive or
So potentially a parallel process around good enough?
I don't know what you mean.
Oh, I'm sure you don't.
Yes, quite
Yeah.
probably. Yes, I feel searching around my own the impact of the conversation.
Mm. Is this a good place to
Press the pause button. Thank you so
end?
much.
So Funeka, you've been
Yes.
part of the process as the coach being supervised, and
Mm.
you've heard Colin and I reflecting on the process.
Yeah.
And I'm curious to hear what new meaning you're making out of having been party to our discussion.
I think the piece that got me also thinking is around the good enough point, which I didn't think about, that maybe sitting even below the disrespect and frustration is the wondering whether I am good enough, you know. So that was the one thing. And the other one was the whole idea of values, you know, the value of integrity I hold quite highly. And even for myself, when I feel like I'm out of integrity, I'm quite harsh on myself. And so the idea of a client being out of integrity, or what I perceive as being out of integrity, you know, it's that also, you know, it becomes quite a, how can you, you know? So, yeah, so it was the values and the good enough that I, you know, as I was listening, I thought about. Yeah.
And is there a piece that you want to do, or what do you want to do with that as you have taken the second layer, as it were, moving forward into your work as a coach?
I think I always make sure that in my work I remain compassionate and remain present. And I think I thought I was doing enough of that. So it's really around being conscious about being compassionate, that we, you know, we make mistakes. I make a mistake, clients make mistakes, and just remaining compassionate.
Sure, yeah.
Yeah.
As a last comment, reflections on this process of supervision that you might want to verbalize?
No, it's a useful process. I mean, it helps with reflection. And it certainly helps with accountability, you know, to reflect.
Sure. Yeah.
So, yeah, that's what I think supervision helps in that way, that there is an accountability partner.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And that's such a wonderful way of describing it.
Yeah. Yeah.
An accountability partner.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay,
Great.
thanks, Funeka.
Thank you.